Today is a big deal. The Puerto Rico executive orders have changed again, but now we're actually allowed to go outside. So I am outside. This is the first time I've been outside for a walk in 8 weeks. So I am so excited that we're finally seeing some progress and the relaxing of certain rules for lockdown. We're still week 8 of island-wide lockdown, but there are more and more things that are opening, and that's good news. And then going for a walk is the first step. Hi, I'm Jen from JenThereDoneThat, and we are on week 8 of island-wide lockdown in Puerto Rico. So a lot of things have changed in the last week even. So we've got a lot of big announcements and things are good. What we're seeing is starting May 4th that we can now walk outside, ride bikes freely, and nosy neighbors can no longer call the cops or security on us for tickets and fines. A lot of people were doing this around the island anyway. I have tons of friends around the island that their neighbors were all going out for walks, maintaining good social distancing, riding bikes, whatever, keeping up a normal exercise routine. So now we're just allowed to do it. Curfew hasn't changed, but we can be outside for physical activity alone. The parks and beaches are still closed, so this is as close to the ocean as I'm really going to get right now. My personal thought is they are keeping the beaches closed to discourage tourists. As soon as they reopen the beaches, everybody's going to want to fly to Puerto Rico and come to the beach because our beaches are amazing. This week, financial services, insurance, professional services like lawyers, accountants, engineers, real estate offices are now able to reopen, and they will be opening by appointment only, which is fine. I would make an appointment with my realtor or lawyer or accountant anyway. So now they're able to actually get back to work. Some of them have been doing remote work as best as they can, but now they can actually go into their offices and take appointments if need be, especially if you need to have notary services. Obviously, you can't do that over the phone. You need to go in person, show your ID, sign for it. And in Puerto Rico, we have these cute little holographic stickers that go in a book for notary services. So that's now allowed. Laundry services, labs, vehicle inspection centers are all now open, but I still haven't seen actual information on being able to renew our car registration, the marbete. So even though the vehicle inspection offices are open, I'm hoping that there will be some sort of online, or we can go to the drive-thru at the bank to actually purchase the marbete sticker. That's going to be interesting how they're going to do that, because the last thing I want to do is walk into the very crowded DTOP, which is our Puerto Rico Department of Motor Vehicles. I never want to go in there anyway, but especially not now. And if I do, I will be wearing a mask. Masks are still, I believe they're required, if not strongly suggested, to anywhere that you go out in public, especially in enclosed indoor spaces. You want to have those masks. Reusable masks are very popular right now. AC service is finally allowed. Repairmen and air conditioning services are now allowed to be scheduled for appointments to come into your home. And that's a big one if you were without air conditioning or you had an appliance that was broken. So now those people, you can make appointments for those services and get that taken care of. We already saw hardware stores and auto shops, our Gomeras, have been open. They were only supposed to be open a couple days a week, but they've been opening Monday through Friday. Now our executive orders make that official, where they can be open by appointment only or for online orders and pickup like we've been doing at our local Home Depot. Another big one is finally dental services are open. So if you were due for a dental appointment, you could not go in for a dentist appointment or most medical appointments that were non-emergency for the last 8 weeks. So now you can go in for dental appointments, optometrists, any kind of primary medical services, and specialists are now allowed to take appointments. So some of them were doing telemedicine only, and now they can actually take appointments for you to go in if you need to physically be into the office for a non-emergency medical service. Previously, it was emergency only, which, you know, if you're not having an emergency situation, you just kind of wait. Well, waiting is over. Now we can go and see our doctors if need be. We're still suspended all big crowds. Anything over 10 people, I believe, is the latest number I've seen. Those are still suspended. So having a party is not going to happen. You will still get fined. The police or security are going to come out and find you if they find out that you're having a party for more than 10 people. And lockdown has been extended another 3 weeks, at least until May 25th, and then they'll be reevaluating. So we've got a lot of good changes that take place today, starting this week, and then coming up, we have planned for next week, May 11th, which of course is completely subject to change, and a new executive order could be issued as we speak. But starting next week, we should see construction and manufacturing and road repairs. Those will soon be allowed. And this is really good timing because Saturday we had another big earthquake on the west side of Puerto Rico near Ponce. So they're going to need some rebuilding, and they're going to need some construction. So we're really happy to see that going on. We have too many road construction projects that have just been completely stopped because of this. And sounds like now they have a plan of how they're going to resume that and continue on with our road construction and construction in general. The lockdown is scheduled to go at least now until May 25th. And that last week of May 18th, they're already talking about they'll be reevaluating other businesses that could be opened or opened with guidelines like barbershops, beauty salons, malls, and church services. So right now, religious services are all online. People are live streaming the religious services because in a church, very often you have more than 10 people inside next to each other, and more than 10 people is not allowed. So they're looking at how they can issue proper guidance to keep everyone safe when there's more than 10 people inside, close together. So hopefully we'll have those opening up, but for right now, get your church services online. One of the other things that they're going to be reevaluating middle of May are restaurants. So right now, restaurants are only open for takeout and delivery service. There's no in-dining restaurants right now. And many restaurants, just the food that they have isn't really conducive for takeout service. So a lot of restaurants are closed, and they're looking at how middle of May they can reopen restaurants, how we can still keep good social distancing, protect the servers, employees, and customers in a dining environment where obviously you're going to take off your face mask to eat and drink. So I think we're going to see some guidelines about that, around that, coming up real soon. I will say I'm not a huge fan of the governor, but Governor Wanda Vasquez has done a really good job with the lockdown. She was not elected. She was part of the previous administration, and if you remember, Ricky Renuncia and Puerto Rico had 3 governors in 1 week. We now have Governor Wanda Vasquez, and I will not talk about some of the things that I really disagree with her on at this time, but I will talk about specifically how she's handled lockdown and how her administration has handled lockdown. So first of all, they've done a really good job. The lockdown was early. It was communicated out early. We need to stop this. All non-essential businesses close. If you're not a pharmacy, medical office for emergencies, gas station or grocery store, you're closed. And that just kind of set things off right away. It was very strict, but it stopped everything. And I think it got a lot of people's attention that, hey, this is serious. So that was good. I was disappointed with the ongoing communication about the lockdown. A lot of things were not, the reasoning behind it wasn't necessarily communicated. I'm guessing the reason why they don't reopen the beaches is because they don't want a whole lot of tourists coming in. I don't think it's necessarily because they're afraid residents are going to go to the beach and walk more than 6 feet away from each other. I think we'd all be very good about that. But as soon as they reopen the beaches, there will be people getting on a plane, coming to Puerto Rico to come vacation for our beaches. So I think that's why that restriction's still in place. But without having good guidance, I'm guessing. We've also had an executive order comes out, and then this most recent one already had 2 amendments. So I think I've got the most current and up-to-date information, but amendments are coming out, new executive orders are being released all the time. It's kind of hard to keep track of what is allowed and what isn't. The 9 o'clock curfew was issued in an executive order for 24 hours, and then an amendment was released saying, no, you're still on the 7 p.m. curfew. So we're still on the 7 p.m. curfew unless that's changed. Another thing the administration has done really well is the staggered reopenings. So we are seeing more businesses being allowed to reopen. They're getting some guidelines of what that means, and more businesses are reopening. We still have a shelter in place orders, except, when I'm outside walking before curfew. But most of us, we are still shelter in place. We're still under that curfew from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. to be at home. But more and more businesses are being allowed to open. So we are seeing the reopening of our island, at least from a business standpoint. People, if you're not if you don't have an appointment to go to one of those services or pick up a product that you've purchased, you should be at home. Stay at home, shelter in place, other than outside social distancing for exercise, walking, and biking around your home. I think more businesses should have been allowed to open earlier. The hardware stores should have been allowed to open much earlier, tire shops, things like that. I'm glad they're open now, but we definitely saw where as soon as they were allowed to open Friday and Saturday, the demand was way too great for just 2 days a week. So they opened even before the executive orders really allowed them to for drive-through and pickup 6 days a week. So, the administration could have handled that a little bit better, but they did a very good job of adjusting based on new information. So this is kind of a 2-part critique. I did critique in the fact that the communication wasn't very good and they kind of seemed like they were changing their minds, but that just seemed like they were kind of waffling on guidance. I am glad that we're seeing there are staggered openings, there's adjustment based on data, and there's adjustment based on new information that we're learning. no one knew what to expect, so they are making reasonable modifications based on the information coming out and the other guidelines we're seeing from the CDC and the WHO and the medical doctors, because we don't want politicians making these decisions. Again, and one of the criticisms is we don't have good, accurate testing data. We have a lack of testing around the island, and what testing data we did have turned out to be inaccurate and wrong. They were double and triple counting positive cases for a single individual. So our numbers were highly exaggerated. Once they adjusted the data for unique cases, unique individuals, our numbers went down. But overall, testing around the island has been woefully inadequate. So we really don't have good numbers. I talked about the license plate thing a number of times. That just caused more confusion than anything. There was even a suggestion that grocery store workers should be outside policing the license plate numbers before you can come in, and it got really out of control. The police were policing it, and I think it was just overwhelming for them in general, and it was not really beneficial in the long run. So they did get rid of the license plate restriction. I was very happy about that. Overall, I think the government offices were just unprepared for remote operations, online activity, and just a contingency plan overall. We should have learned this from Hurricane Maria, that we need more options. We need in person, we need online, we need the ability to call, we need the ability to go to remote office, whatever. We made a lot of contingency, there was a lot of contingency plans and contingency work that we as residents had to put in place after Hurricane Maria, and it doesn't seem like the government really did that. And no one could have predicted a pandemic worldwide, but our government just in general has not been prepared for online activity. The phone systems are just completely overwhelmed if you actually do need to call for things. And now a lot of the agencies are trying to figure out how they're going to reopen to keep their employees safe. But then how are you going to help the residents when they don't have processes in place for that? So we're either going to see appointments for your government agency, which would have been great in the first place, instead of walking into a big room and taking a number and hope you get called sometime in the next 6 hours, actually being able to do appointments for things, or God forbid, be able to do online requests and online filings and different things. I was thrilled when in the last year, one of the big quarterly forms used to have to walk into the hacienda and present the paperwork and your check, and you get a stamp, and now they've made that all online, so I know they can do it. We need more of those services online. Call, make an appointment, things where you don't have 300 people inside a building waiting for their number to be called 4 or 6 hours later. So hopefully we'll see some positive changes out of this and a better run government. Maybe I'm a little too optimistic for that one, but I'm hoping. Either way, I can honestly say the lockdown is improving, and I'm personally feeling pretty positive about where we are for week 8 of island-wide lockdown in Puerto Rico. So thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos from Jen There, Done That.